Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. It has been a while. Thought I left you without something dope to step to. Did you miss me? Hey, hey, hey. Pelicans, how we doing? What's good? What's up? No? No, okay. I'm reloaded. Pelicans Daily presented by Fan Arch. I'm your host, Dylan Bruton. Make sure to like, to share, to subscribe. Because when you're chilling with Dill, you already know the drill. A lot's been going on. Whoever said grad school is like another job, they weren't lying. They were not lying. Oh my God. Between that, apartment life, parking lot life, I mean, it's been a lot. And I live in an apartment building that is in its infancy. You'll probably hear at some point in this video, you'll hear some like sounds like water running or whatever like that. That's from my ceiling. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I already have maintenance fixed it once. They're gonna have to come do it again. Um, but speaking of things that are in their infancy stage, we've got two rookies. We all know. We all know and love. We all know what the talent is capable of. Both of them were highly regarded prospects coming out of high school, and they turned in amazing freshman campaigns in their respective universities. And that is in the case of Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen. Now, Coach Willie Green was recently asked with WDSU News, and he talked about where they stand in their development with the team, and he was very optimistic and positive with them. I'll read the full quote. He said, "It's a balance. It's a balance of making sure that we continue to develop them, continue to have communication about the things that they are doing really well, the improvements that they can make, but making sure that they play through some of those mistakes as well," Green said. That's how guys get better in this league. And we're extremely excited about both Jeremiah and Derek, two really fantastic young players that we feel can make an impact in this organization. And it's great to hear that Coach Green has confidence in both Jeremiah Fears and Derek Queen. We've known Coach Green to not necessarily be a guy who is going to play the youngins, who's gonna give the youngins a lot of burn, unless he is absolutely forced to. Like, hey, everybody and their mama is hurt and gone. We need you to step in. So it's a good sign to hear that. We all know, with Derek Queen, his recovery with his wrist injury, that's going to be an impactful. That's going to be impactful for him to get some good development, to get some good reps when he gets the opportunity to, because he's got to make up for some lost time. But as President Dumars spoke to it about a couple weeks ago, hey, them legs still work just fine. And I think by and large there is that kind of mentality of, next man up, but also just look to find different ways to contribute. Don't limit yourself. Be somebody who looks to create solutions, not problems. So I feel great about both of them. I know some people have their mixed feelings about them. I know some people feel like, oh, well, we could have maybe got this guy or this guy. But I'm telling y'all, those two, the amount of potential that they have is through the roof. I see what I did there. It's through this roof, and it's through any other roof that you can think of, just because of what they were able to achieve at such a young age, and the way that they can go about it now. They're around and in an NBA infrastructure, and we've seen the development of different players within this NBA infrastructure. So I'm very optimistic, especially about my guy Jeremiah Fear. So heading up into this rookie year, this will be a huge year for Jeremiah Fears. Now, granted, he is a young player, very young player. You can see it when he plays, right? But the potential is there. The game, the moxie, the swagger, all of that is there. For him to get comparisons to guys like Kyrie Irving, to John Wall, you don't just get comparisons like those if you're just some regular average Joe Schmo. No. The star potential is very much there. Now, in an article done by my guy Chris Lambert, It's kind of talking about, you know, two major important goals. And I agree on these ones. Um, and he said, or I'm going and. I feel like the potential is through the roof with Jeremiah Fears in his ability to play at both ends, the explosiveness that he plays with. So for me personally, I don't think it's too lofty to put two of these type of expectations on him. And the two, limit turnovers and make an all rookie team. And I think those are two very manageable because I mean that making an all rookie team doesn't imply first or second team. It's just you got to make one of them. You need to make an impact as one of the best. You need to at least be a top 20 rookie. Sorry, top 10 rookie. I'm tripping. I'm thinking football because of the amount of players. But you need to at least be a top 10 rookie, right? Because you got the first rookie, you got the all rookie first team, and you got the all rookie second team. Um, and I think that's pretty reasonable. Given one, you got to think about it. Jeremiah Fears is likely going to be playing a lot of backup minutes, especially with the guard depth that we've got, especially once DeJounte Murray comes back. And in those moments that he does play, you will expect a lot of oohs and ahs and flashy plays. He's going to make Sports Center at some point of the year. I don't know that's not too lofty, but he's got that type of he plays with that type of edge. He plays with that type of confidence in his game. He plays like there's not anyone out there that can really hold me. I mean, it goes with the moniker Zero Fears. And Chris thinks he's going to average somewhere between 6 to 9.5 points, 1.5 to 3.5 rebounds, and 2 to 3.5 assists. Which, if he puts up numbers like those, he'll easily make an all rookie team. And given his biggest issue of all was turnovers, because he averaged 5 turnovers to 2.6 assists, which that's not going to cut it. It's just not. But he's a young player. He's a young point guard. The learning curve for young guards is not an easy one. You know what I'm saying? It's no different than being a young quarterback in the NFL, right? You're kind of given the keys to the car, but you're kind of not. You really have to show and prove. There's a lot that goes into it because you're tasked with being the operator, with being the general, in a way, of the offense. The guys are going to look to you, in a sense, to be the initiator, to be the coach on the court. There's a lot of pressure that goes into being a point guard. But for a guy who's nicknamed Zero Fears, I got more than enough faith in Jeremiah Fears, personally, right? In the Summer League, I will say, he didn't back down from the moment. That was the thing that impressed me the most. I know the turnovers, the shooting was not the most efficient, but the thing that I was most impressed with was that the moment did not seem too big for him. He did not play scared one bit. Now, I know some people are going to say, oh, well, but what about the efficiency? He needs to take smarter shots. Yes. But those are things that can be fine-tuned and refined. Those are things that can be, ironed and maneuvered on. Those are things that can be built upon. You can't teach heart. Hate to say it. You can't teach guts. You can't teach confidence. These are things that he strives in already. You know what I'm saying? And that's where I feel very optimistic, because another aspect that does not get mentioned a lot is the mental, right? Your mental has to be strong. You're going into a situation where, and I talk about this with a lot of former athletes that I know. You're going into a situation where, people say with college, right? Every guy was the man at their high school. Well, in the NBA, every guy was the man of their division, of their team. Every guy was the best player on their campus, pretty much. So now, again, the talent pool just keeps the talent the bulk of people dwindles, but the talent pool increases. So you got to really be able to step up. You got to be able to sink, not swim. So I'm very optimistic in what I think Jeremiah Fears will accomplish and achieve, but he's got to show and prove. Now, speaking of showing and proving, NBA preseason is a month away, and we're gonna see a lot of training camp signees come in and come out. And a guy that we just picked up, as reported by Chris Haynes, is Garrison Brooks, who played at University of North Carolina. And all intents and purposes, this is an interesting signing, needless to say. He spent the last 2 years of his professional career in Lithuania, playing for the Wolves Twinsbet Vilnius, and Korea, playing for Wonju Jeonbuk Promi. And in his time between those two, he averaged a little bit over 7 points a game in 18 and a half minutes. He's 26 years old, same age as me, which is kind of wild. But 6'10", getting extra size. Not really a floor spacer, but a guy who's got a solid back-to-basket and mid-range game, which doesn't get appreciated often, but when it's effective, you have to utilize. And it's funny that Chris so this is an article done by Chris, he put that if they were signing the 2020 version of him, he'd be all in, because in his that year at UNC, he averaged just under 17 a game, made the All-ACC team, and won ACC Most Improved Player. But it has been some time. However, I do feel like there's just definitely a lane for a power forward who's not maybe the most physically who's not the most physically dominant on defense, but can still be a physical presence offensively as a mid-range spacer, as a pick and pop screener. I think there is room. I am intrigued on why versus a guy like that Chris brought up, Seth Curry, another guy brought up DeLon Wright. I am a little curious on why those guys didn't necessarily get a call over. Maybe they did and they couldn't work out a deal. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. As a Duke fan, anytime we sign a UNC guy, I am going to make note of it. I am going to do that. But there are definitely, with all jokes aside, UNC is an amazing organization, amazing university, produced some amazing players. But I am interested in this signing. I really am. I actually, I kind of don't know where President Dumars is going with this one, but maybe it's for him to understand and for us to find out as the season progresses. Maybe he goes and ends up being on our G League team and ends up developing, and then is able to come into the fray and is able to contribute, be a positive addition to our bench rotation. I don't know what the vision here is, but we shall see moving forth. So we'll see, because size is one thing that our depth at the 4 and 5, it has gotten better, and I'm very intrigued to see what we do. Obviously with Derek Queen, with Carlo, even Hunter Dickinson, Kevon Looney, and then of course Yves Missy. Now you add in Garrison Brooks, you can kind of throw Jalen McDaniels up in there, even though he's going to be more on the wings, just like with Herb Jones. But we'll see what Brooks ends up doing. He might end up showing out in preseason. There's a lot of different possibilities here. But it is important to stay active, so at least we are staying active with the moves that we make, but hopefully we keep progressing and continuing that. But a guy who I hadn't mentioned, but a guy who is going to have a big year on the wings, Trey Murphy III. Now, there's been a lot of trade talk around Trey Murphy III. Why? I don't know. I know why. He's an amazing, phenomenal player. Of course you want to go out there and get a player like Trey Murphy III for your team. But guess what? He's on our team. So back up. Now, Trey Murphy III had a breakout campaign last year. There we go. I told y'all about that ceiling. I told y'all. I don't know if you can hear it, but if you can, yeah. But he had a breakout year last year, averaged 21 a game, 5 boards, 3.5 assists, a steal. nearly a block a game, 45% from the field, 36 from three, and nearly 89% from the free throw line. And in a very recent interview he did with the NBA social team, he was asked about big goals that he had heading into this upcoming season, and I think these were all three very very doable things for him. Win games, get to the playoffs, and become an all-star. And he included in this interview, he said, big chip on my shoulder, especially from last year. I want to prove people wrong. And he detailed that, in this offseason, he's been just elevating your game. I think that comes in the offseason with film work, skill work, what you're doing in the weight room. I think the biggest way of separating yourself is just knowing what you do to get better. The biggest thing I'm working on with Drew handling right now is some mid-range, bumping off, and creating space for my shot. And I love all of this. Trey Murphy is not only saying the right things, but he is providing his blueprint with a vision that can be executed, right? He's providing his actions with intention. And it's so key that you do that at this stage of your career, right? Young guy, still finding his footing, but you have seen the growth. You've seen the tremendous amount of leaps. So this is why when there is talk of trade talk, it's like, okay, you want to bring in trades, you have to bring in someone worth the value, because look at this young guy that we're developing. Look at the things that he is saying, and look at the things that he is doing, and look how much he wants it, right? And those are three, I think, very feasible goals. I think the toughest one is going to be the All-Star one. And it has nothing to do with talent. It has everything to do with the fact that there is a crazy depth of wing talent within the Western Conference. And, to get there, you're going to have to average a pretty significant chunk of points. But the other two, win games, get to the playoffs, I think those are totally palatable. I think those are totally doable. And I think that he absolutely has the capability of doing so. I believe in the talent. I think that, he's going to continue to evolve and blossom. He's a guy who's going to be our second option, most likely. I mean, obviously, even throwing a guy like Jordan Poole into the fray. But I still think that he's going to be our second option. However, in saying that, still expect for him to have his big moments, because he's going to be our closer. I mean, thankfully, he's not going to be our only closer, but he's definitely going to be our primary closer, because, when I love Zion, but Zion is not the world's greatest free throw shooter. Floor spacing is not necessarily his thing. So you're going to need a guy like Trey Murphy to step up in the clutch when it matters. So I got big optimism in Trey Murphy III. I've got some big hope, and I'm praying and I'm excited to see what he does. So, hey, it's going to be exciting. But wasn't many comments on the last video. It's a tough crowd. But there is one I do want to respond to, and I'm going to respond just very quickly before I end this video. But Michael McNamara, 3730, said, clickbait titles and still barely any views. Time to give it up. Well, hey, Michael, all I'm going to say is the only time that I'm giving it up and quitting is when I'm 6 feet deep physically and my soul is reunited with God over my dead body, my man. Ain't no quitting over here, Might be adjusting, might be pivoting, but that's life. You should learn how to treat it. But it's comments like those that keeps me going. It's comments like those that get me out of my bed. It's comments like those that are for why I am here getting my master's in sports journalism. So, Michael, appreciate you, because all you're doing is just giving fuel to the fire. I really do appreciate it, though. And I remember your comments. You've been very helpful with your suggestions about how things can improve. So I appreciate it. I appreciate it always. Everyone on the journey is always going to have impact one way or another. So I appreciate it, though. But that's going to do it. That's going to be it. Much love. Appreciate all the support nonetheless. Let's continue to grow. Let's continue to build. Like I said, I was away for a little bit, but you can't keep me away too long. So stay tuned for more content on the way. Got a lot of exciting things in store, and y'all been on this journey and ride so far. So continue to stay on. Just like for the people who are starting to really believe and see what the Pelicans can do, have some faith. Zero fears over here, though. That's how I look at it. All right, y'all, though. Stay blessed. Stay amazing. Make sure that you like, you share, subscribe. Support us for free. Seriously. Shout out to Fan Arch as well. Show them some love. They continue to do their thing, impacting the sports content coverage world in the way that they have. And make sure that this week you do something that gives you purpose, that lights a fire in your chest. Go touch some grass, too. It's good for you. It's good for you. All right, y'all. Have a great rest of your day. You'll see me soon. Don't worry, I ain't going to be gone that long. Things go on. Life happens. But we pivot, we adjust, and we make the best of it. And that's what we're going to do this season and moving forth. So, again, this is the place to be. This is the fan base to be with. But y'all have a great and amazing rest of your day. I'll see y'all tomorrow.